Oh, that was loud. Happy Monday, guys. I don't know about the rest of you, but I love this time of year. It's springtime when it starts to get warming up. It was 90 degrees yesterday here. I couldn't believe how hot it was. I was like, man, uh, my dad's outside smoking a pipe right now. It's really funny. He bought a new corn cob pipe. So today I want to teach about self-mastery. I had a dream last night, where I posted it on LinkedIn, Facebook, and some other portals for any of you that follow me there. Um, I had a dream where I was cradling my bride to be, my wife that I was going to marry. And her mom, she was crying. She was crying in my lap. And she was like, I don't want to wear these clothes. And her mom, my soon to be mother in law, was screaming at me and saying, why can't, why won't she wear these clothes that I want to give her? Because she was giving her clothes to wear for her wedding day. And I realized at that point in the dream that I was just seeing this generational trauma of people, you know, feeling the need to dress themselves up on the outside to attract the things that they want. And this is something that I did for a long time, just buying a place in Idaho to try and attract people to hang out, right? I was trying to get people together, create a place where people could come together and hang out and grow closer. But the reality is without that relationship with yourself, it doesn't happen. You can create anything you want out there, but until you strip yourself down from the inside out, you're not going to attract what you should be attracting. You have to create this positive mindset to where you start being able to transmute all the negative energies around you. And that way you start attracting, you know, you'll attract opposites, and like versus like, or like attracts like as well. So you'll be able to choose what kind of environment you want to live in. And for me personally, I love helping people who are in a negative mindset. There's for a long time, you can say that, yes, I know that I'm creating this reality. But the toughest part is to be able to master yourself so that you don't have any negative thinking going through your thoughts, because, we're living in this giant matrix or illusion of mental energy. So anytime you have a negative thought about somebody else or yourself, one thing, you've fallen out of the larger picture, which is it's just a growth cycle, right? Everything is an awareness moving from darkness to light. And so you've created a reactive mindset, and that reactive mindset is just reacting to an old trauma. It could be somebody else's trauma, and you're carrying that burden of somebody else's trauma into your own biofield. And now you're carrying that burden, and your body starts to break down, and you start to get older, and you'll get sick if you're thinking too negatively too often. You don't even have to say anything, right? And so, make sure you watch what you eat, watch what you are watching on TV. I've gotten to where I just am not comfortable eating just about anything, because you grow so sensitive, when you get closer and closer to the divine, right? Because you're realizing that everything that you're putting into your body is what's coming out, and it's affecting your health and everything. And this larger journey that everybody's going on, because you're in a larger consciousness awareness. It's not just you. So anytime you're thinking negatively about somebody else, they've done experiments about this, you're actually pulling electrons from that person, and that person can actually feel some negative energy. And I've gone through this. I can feel when people are thinking about negatively, but that's actually a good thing, because it forces you to transmute that energy, and you're able to transmute that energy into something positive. And if you can get to a place where anytime you feel something creeping up that's negative, and you can transmute it immediately, then you start creating your own reality, and you're no longer reacting to the reality around you. And you realize that all that external stuff really doesn't mean anything, right? Because the reality is, when you're a kid and you're growing up, we were all running naked around in the sun. We didn't worry about anything until people started putting clothing on us and say, this is something you need to worry about, this out here, something's going to get you, right? And that's that negative thinking. Anything where you think there's could be any kind of negative consequence is a reactive mindset, because you believe that everything out there isn't you. The reality is everything out here is all of us. There isn't anything out there that's not you. When you look at the picture of the galaxy, it's just one awareness. And so it's growing close, we're getting closer to the center of that. So the structures are getting more complicated. Our structures are getting more complicated because our awareness is expanding. We're realizing, hey, my ego needs to fall down because I'm a part of all these other people, right? If I think negatively about this person, it impacts my health and theirs, unless they're a master healer. And so what we're witnessing as a culture and a society is more and more people that are mastering themselves and mastering their egos. That's why the present system has to break down in order for that to happen. It won't happen without that happening, if that makes sense, right? A nice cushy environment doesn't create an atmosphere where people grow, right? The same thing happens in the wintertime when you look at plants grow. You have to create stress in order for that plant to grow. And so we don't grow unless we create stress, right? Stress has to happen in order to grow. And so when you think of it in a higher perspective and you think, oh, when I'm going through all this, if you're feeling stressed, so you feel like you need to rest, then just rest and understand that you're just going through a growth cycle. And when you get done going through that growth cycle, you'll understand that, hey, that's why I went through that. Now I can help other people in their growth cycles, because it's just somebody's living in another karmic cycle just because they were thinking negatively because they inherited that burden from somebody else. Might not even have been in their own family, right? You could have been raised by anybody, but your environment has all those traumas around it. And so when you feel like you need to protect yourself from a certain person or a certain thing, then you'll think negatively about it, not understanding that you can put them in a cycle of growth if you raise their awareness and help them understand that they're just co-creating this reality. There's a really good example of that. If you guys think about football games, have you ever watched football games where, the tide always turns, right? In a football game, you always see one team, maybe score a couple touchdowns, and then it feels like the energy shifts, and then another couple teams, or the other team scores a couple touchdowns. What you're seeing is the reactive consciousness of the whole stadium. If any of you have ever been to a football game, you know that you can feel the energy. You can feel which team is really driving the ball. And then what you're feeling is the mindset of everybody in those stands, and the players can feel that as well. That's why it doesn't matter how good the team is. If the entire stadium was thinking negatively about the best team, there's no way they can win, right? Unless they're all master healers and they've mastered themselves, because all that negative energy is being sucked out of them. It's a real feeling. And I'm sure you guys have felt it. And so when you start to master yourself, your own abilities will heighten, because you'll be extremely sensitive to people's states of mind and whether or not they're in a negative mindset. And then you'll be able to minister to that mind and say, hey, look, create this. Doesn't it feel better to think about it this way, right? To feel that it's just a temporary thought. It's not anything permanent. And if you realize that and say, you're just going through a little bit of stress, that you can think about it under a positive light, and then you can pull that person out of whatever they're in. So always think about everything in that aspect. It's always a growth cycle, and you're always moving towards something greater. And eventually you'll get enough response from the divine when you just ask. That's why Jesus said, ask and you shall receive, because as long as you believe and you think positively that if I do ask, I will receive, then you will receive. If you think negatively, right, then You won't. You can ask for whatever. And then as soon as you don't believe that, you're actually voiding what you just asked for, right? When you think, well, maybe I'm not going to get that. So he was teaching people how to create reality. This reality is so it's a blessing to be here because there's so many, smaller awarenesses you get to play with that you're not going to negatively impact yourself, your negative karma, right? If I try to control you, then I am creating a negative karmic cycle, right? Because you're going through what you need to go to. I can help raise your awareness to help you ascend faster in a quicker way, which creates a positive outcome for both of us. If I start to think negatively about you and say, oh, you're doing this or you're doing that, then I'm not really looking at the bigger picture. But not only that, I'm creating health issues for myself, right? Because I'm not accepting the fact that you are a part of me and we're both growing together. Makes sense. So think about that for a while, and then we'll see where that leads tomorrow. Because eventually, if you believe, then there's really nothing that's impossible. When Jesus was healing all those people, they were coming to him, and every time he healed somebody of something major, he's like, your faith, said, your faith has made you whole, not my faith. I can call myself a healer all day, and I can say and I'll know for a fact that you can be healed, but unless you believe, then I can't become a conductor for that, if that makes sense, because you are in charge of your own body. I'm not going to try and control your body. And unless you believe, then why would I want to impact you that way? You still, we all have lessons to learn at certain times, and we're all here to support each other. So just think about how you create your own reality, and then make sure you're shedding negative energy. If you're thinking negatively about yourself or negatively about somebody else, say, I need to look at this from a higher perspective, right? Because there's wonderful things happening all around you, unless you can't see it. If you're thinking negatively about something, go outside, go sit by a river, or go sit by a lake, and try and shed that negative energy, and look at how beautiful it is, especially in the springtime. Everything's growing, and sometimes you have to wait till spring to grow because there's such a constriction in the wintertime, but it's just part of a cycle of growth. So I'll leave that for you guys today, this wonderful Monday, and I'll see you later.